How's it going, guys? So I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about this HMI for a project we're doing for a local customer of ours, and wanted to go through and do a little bit of a show and tell on SCADA and best practices when you're doing HMI projects. So whenever you're doing an HMI project, one of the most important things is information and consistency. So what I mean by that is whatever the operator is going to see needs to be informative, and be consistent across the entire screen. So, like for example here, this is a screen for managing and operating a series of radiator fans. Now, most of the time, the operator is not going to really be doing anything with this system. It's going to more or less be running in the background on its own consistently. But if the operator needs to know information like the incoming and outgoing temperatures and whether or not any of the fans are running or what is their status, you have visual confirmation of that on the screen. All of the motors have a status indicator. Each of them has their incoming and outgoing temperature. It's color coded to make sense, so you can see warmer temperatures should be yellow, which is going into the radiator, and then coming out it should be cooler, indicated by a blue numeric display. When I say consistency, what I mean is the color scheme is consistent across the entire screen. You have a consistent navigation menu or button on the bottom to be able to navigate around the HMI that are consistent across all the pages. The whole system is consistent regardless of what page you're on. No matter, if you're on radiator 1 or 4, all the pages where you can view the information for that is consistent across all of the pages. So the navigation buttons. One thing that always kind of annoys me a little bit with some SCADA developers, sometimes these buttons, they add them in, but they're not very consistent about where those buttons are on the screen. More or less, they're in the same spot, but some people tend to forget to make sure that exactly X and Y where the button is consistent across all pages. So sometimes when you bounce between pages, especially if they're identical pages, you'll notice that the buttons kind of shuffle around a little bit. So that's always something to keep in mind whenever you're doing HMIs. So you see that, multiple pages. I have more or less the same buttons where it matters. They're in the same place. You have a menu button to get to a main navigation menu. You have a forward and reverse button to be able to jump back and forth between a page that you were just on. You have an alarm reset, and you have an alarm screen where you can access where the active alarms are. The only exception to the banner buttons that you have is when it comes to, for example, the alarm page. You're already in the alarms, so you no longer have that button, but now you have alarm history. So this can be able to see more historical alarms or information like that. But otherwise, it's the same layout. Reset's still in the same place. And the only other button is a horn silence button so that you can quiet the horn if you already know the active alarms. Other than that, it's consistent across the whole screen program. Something that we like to include, especially when we use motors or sensors, is an overview page. So this allows you to see general information about the specific page or the specific motor. And it also allows you to do certain things like manual overrides and controls. So for example, we can manually take control of this specific motor. There's no active motor attached, so it just faults out for no rotation. But you have manual controls to be able to do that. You can also just put it in automatic from here. Again, it's not connected to an actual motor, so it just faults out. But you can see how it works consistently. Along the side, you have inputs and outputs to tell you the status of the motor. Is it in automatic? Is it safe to run? And any other conditions that you feel are important. This one also uses an amp sensor to detect the current on each of the motors. And so you have a trend here that shows the real amps as well as over time what the amps are, as well as the point at which the PLC would trip out, which is the red line here. The navigation buttons allow you to jump back and forth. So we were on the home page originally and we went here. So you can jump back and forth. So this is helpful when you want to go back to a page you were just on. And more or less it's consistent across the entire board with that. Like I said, biggest things when you're doing an HMI is consistency and relevant information. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. If you guys have an HMI project that you want to share, be sure to show us in the comments. Love to start a dialogue and have a conversation about what SCADA systems you guys are developing. Anyway, catch you on the next one.